Hello, all history lovers. Today we delve into the darkest secrets of the convent of Sant'Ambrogio in Rome, a story that mixes power, deception, spirituality, and crime. If you are curious to know more, then I invite you to leave a nice like, subscribe to the channel, and without further ado, let's get ready to discover every detail of this mysterious and fascinating story. In the 19th century, a convent in Rome became the center of numerous scandals involving priests, nuns, and novices who defied ecclesiastical authorities, the Pope, and even the Inquisition. It was an era when the Church exercised great control over people's spiritual and moral lives, and such scandals were often buried in silence, protected by secrets and powerful institutions. However, some events that occurred inside the convent of Sant'Ambrogio could not be ignored, bringing to light one of the most controversial cases in ecclesiastical history. The convent of Sant'Ambrogio had as its founder an enigmatic figure, Maria Agnesa Ferrau, a controversial nun who, in the early 19th century, was involved in several scandals. Although she was considered a spiritual advisor to Pope Leo X, her religious career was quickly tainted by serious accusations. Ferrau, in fact, had a relationship with a priest and was the protagonist of threesomes with another nun. Not only that, she was accused of performing false miracles, manipulating the faith of other nuns and believers, and even of having suffered abortions following unwanted pregnancies, caused by her relationships with high-ranking members of the clergy. Despite these crimes being known, the convent was not closed by the Inquisition, a sign of the power that Maria Agnesa Ferrau had accumulated over time, so much so that she escaped immediate condemnation. In 1816, however, things changed. Ferrau was finally removed from her role as director of the convent, a sign that the Inquisition had decided to intervene, albeit with considerable delay. Despite this, its influence did not disappear entirely, and illicit activities within the convent walls continued, but in a more discreet manner, away from the prying eyes of the public and religious authorities. After Ferrau's removal, Maria Luisa, the mistress of novices, took over the reins of the convent. Following the example of her predecessor, Maria Luisa continued to organize secret nocturnal meetings with the novices, in which the boundaries between spirituality and carnal desire were blurred. Maria Luisa, cunning and manipulative, used false letters attributed to the Virgin Mary to justify her actions. She wrote these letters with the help of one of the novices, Maria Francisca, known for her elegant calligraphy. The sacred letters ordered the nuns to obey Maria Luisa, even convincing a Jesuit priest of the convent to follow her in acts that were described as spiritual, but were in reality acts of lust. One of the most notorious scandals involved Joseph Coutin, a priest who lived under an assumed name within the convent. Coutin was not a simple priest, but an advisor to the Pope and an important theologian. In 1848, during an investigation by the Inquisition, Coutin admitted to having had illicit relations with Maria Luisa. Despite his confession, he was punished rather lightly compared to the gravity of his actions. The Inquisition confined him to a Jesuit house for 2 years and forbade him from hearing confessions or participating in initiation rites. This minimal punishment made many reflect on the effectiveness of ecclesiastical justice in such delicate cases. No less disturbing was Maria Luisa's treatment of the novices. She introduced particularly rigid practices and initiation rituals that included physical intercourse, claiming that bodily fluids contained divine blessings to be shared among the nuns. During the inquisitorial trial, Maria Luisa confessed that it was the founder herself, Maria Agnesa Ferrau, who transmitted these practices to her, affirming that the miraculous liquid she received was a spiritual gift. One of the most dramatic episodes concerned Princess Catherine, a German noblewoman who, after being widowed twice, decided to join the convent of Sant'Ambrogio. Despite her initial devotion, Catherine soon discovered disturbing behavior within the convent and began to fear for her life. She managed to smuggle out a secret letter in which she asked for help, fearing that Maria Luisa was trying to kill her. Events took an even darker turn when Catherine was poisoned several times with opium, mercury, and even powdered glass without knowing it. Despite all the attempts of Maria Luisa, the princess managed to escape with the help of her cousin. The story of St. Ambrose reached its climax when Maria Luisa was tried by the Inquisition. The charges against her were serious. In addition to relations between women, she was accused of venerating a false saint, of having participated in sexual acts disguised as religious ceremonies, and of having attempted to assassinate Princess Catherine. One of the most discussed crimes was the so-called Jesuit blessing, a secret ceremony which, according to testimonies, consisted of kisses and other lascivious acts, and which supposedly originated with the founder of the convent, Maria Agnesa Ferrau. Despite the gravity of the scandals, the Inquisition attempted to cover everything up, fearing that a scandal of such magnitude could damage the image of the Church, especially since the convent was located close to the Vatican. However, the convent was eventually closed, Maria Luisa sentenced to 20 years of solitary confinement, and the men involved were punished with 2 years in prison. For decades, the Church hid documents relating to the case in secret archives, to which only a few scholars had access. One of them was Hubert Wolff, a history professor at the University of Münster, who uncovered the case thanks to access to the Vatican archives. His research revealed the details of one of the Church's greatest scandals, which included illicit affairs, faked miracles, and attempted murders. Although the Inquisition declared Firau guilty of false sanctity, the nuns of Sant'Ambrogio continued to venerate her, considering her a saint and collecting her relics. Our journey ends here, but this story of St. Ambrose represents only one of the many mysteries that hide in the corridors of history.